Okay, so what you're looking at here is an initial example, more of exploratory code that I did for my dyslexic project. And this is the first part of what I hope will become a suite of tools based on the research that I've done. So what I'm hoping to do, what I'm hoping this will end up as, is a way where dyslexics can express their ideas in a way that makes sense to them. Now I'll go through in a later video plan, but I think that this has most of the tools that I need to do what I need to do. So to start out with, I basically took a library of code called Three.js, and I specifically took this example here. Now what you're looking at here is essentially a series of cubes that you can drag and move around. You can see them there. And then you can also rotate this thing. And I took that and I created this out of it. Now this one we have a little bit more functionality. We can drag things around and we can rotate them, but we can also scroll in and we can scroll out. Now it's not much, I know. We've got three shapes: a cube, a sphere, and a cone. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through the code on my GitHub project. All of this, by the way, is available on my website. So the first thing I do is, or the first thing I've done so far is essentially I'm just here. Literally all I'm doing is I'm just importing it. This is pretty standard stuff. I'm importing it as setting the background color, the color of the spheres, and what have you. And here I'm just importing things that I need to import. Then I'm setting up essentially some containers and the controls and what have you. Then I'm setting up the camera. This is a camera position, so that's essentially just putting the XYZ coordinates of the camera itself, where you're looking at. Here I'm setting and essentially the rotation speed, the zoom speed, the pan speed, etc. Then I'm putting in the light, where the light's going to come from. Keep in mind you're dealing with a three-dimensional environment here, so you need to have a direction for the light and its shadows, and that's all been set up here. And then finally I'm adding it to the scene. Then var tools. So what this is doing is this is essentially just setting up the tools that I'm going to be using. Essentially just, in this case, it's the box, the sphere, and the cylinder. And what I do here, you can actually see there, is I set it up to be a cone. And these are their positions. I set them all right, and I essentially do this in a loop. I'm sure there is a better way of doing it, but this is just exploratory code when I originally set it up. And I was largely just getting used to the entire thing. So this is actually going to get dated quite fast and change quite a bit. Then we set up our plane. The plane is effectively just an invisible plane for everything to exist on. And that's essentially what you're rotating when you're dragging and dropping. Then we render everything, and this is essentially just rendering things like the background color, the window, etc. And then we're setting up various information positions. That's basically that little box there, which I'll be taking out as time goes on. Then we've got a window resize. So what we're doing there is we're just making sure that the windows are the correct size. And here we've got the on mouse move event. So every time I move the mouse, it detects essentially what's been selected, so it makes it draggable, etc. This is another mouse event, only this is a mouse on down. So this allows me to tell whether or not what to do when I click down on the mouse. It detects whether or not it's collision. Detects for collisions, I should say, in terms of have I selected an object, or am I just clicking randomly to essentially rotate the entire environment. Create objects. So this is essentially just creating the various objects that we'll be using. Specifically in this case, we've got the cone, the sphere, or the cone, the sphere, and the cube. And then finally, we're setting their places one more time where they're going to be. Or we're setting their places when the objects are created. And then we're animating everything. That's a very rough overview. This is going to change over time. I'm also going to be breaking this up into several files as well. And I might even change the language as well to Python. So I'm going to keep you updated, and I'm going to be walking through the code as I go. If anyone has any suggestions, there's a GitHub project there. You can see the URL, and of course this is all available on my website. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing your contributions.